Hey, what's up, everybody? Live show. Michael Langston here to talk recruiting. I'm not Michael Langston. That's Michael Langston over there, recruiting analyst for Warchant.com, the ultimate Seminoles sports source. Thanks for joining us. If you're a member of Warchant.com, we sincerely appreciate you and your patronage. Just know that most of the stuff that Michael's probably about to discuss has probably already been talked about over the PRB. So rest well. Let the people know the PRB. If they're not here, it's okay. It's going to be all right. But thanks for hanging out, everybody. We appreciate it. Michael, what should people do before we get the show started, and then throughout the show once you start dropping the nuggets?
Always hit the like button. It's always a positive. We love that. It promotes these features and promotes our big things. This was kind of a last minute thing, so certainly we always love it when you hit the like button and promote it, and helps us promote it even more. So yeah, keep hitting the like button.
Awesome. I like the fact that Florida State apparently is never going to get done recruiting the portal ever. So what happened with my guy from Harvard? My guy Rizzi. Is that still a spring enrollment, or has anything changed in that front now that he's committed to Florida State this past 24 hours?
I think it's still the May window. I don't think anything's changed with that. I think it's just a guy that saw everything he's need to see, and I'd heard it was going to be a week or two when he decides. So I think more so just a decision to get out of the way that he felt like FSU's the place, and when it comes to numbers, certainly FSU's where you want to get in as far as you're going to get in early because. Or just to get the commitment early and done. So I think that was more the process than it was like enrollment or stuff like that.
That's true, right? Yeah, this is a place people want to come now. I mean, it's been like the last year and a half, but like it's getting a little bit different now, huh, Michael?
Yeah, it's different. It's a very it's a transfer portal type of place as far as development. You've seen that throughout the last 3 years. So I think guys see that, guys love it. Certainly they know when they get there, development is not going to be a question, whether it's defensive end, linebacker, or offensive line, or whoever you are, quarterback. Jordan Travis transfer. So there's a lot of there's a lot of positivities when it comes to what they do with development. And I think a lot of these transfers want to be a part of it.
Well done here by my guy here. Where'd he go? I think Laron posted it. Wants to get that Harvard diploma. Oh yeah, forgot about that. Probably want to wrap that one up too before you start playing ball down here.
Right.
So that's cool, man. Does he project interior, or is he possible tackle?
I've heard more so interior, but I've also heard he's a jack of all trades where he could do like Darius Washington and play in a lot of different spots. That's what I've kind of heard. Certainly, when you look at his height and weight, it kind of you would think like tackle at the first, but I've heard more so interior. So I think that's kind of where I expect when he gets here. That's where he'll start.
Tony Greco says another chat. I thought Michael Langston got a little break till after spring ball. Yeah, I was posted it on him like an hour ago. I'm like, hey, Michael, I was supposed to schedule a live chat. If you're around, you want to still do one? He's like, yeah, sure, let's do it. So here we are, everybody. Michael loves you all, everybody. He does.
Yeah, yeah. We just wanted to make sure we cover all the angles. Certainly them getting commitment and then stuff coming up. I'll certainly have another junior day this weekend and next weekend. So there's a lot of stuff still going on. Mine's not complete until the following weekend. Then after next weekend, yeah, Mike's gonna drift off a little bit. But
Deservedly so.
I will still be around, for things that go on because there are going to be March visits. But as far as the month of February, I'll probably take it easy a little bit once we get to that final signing day, and then in March I'll probably be back a little bit. But my guy Matt's got it covered if we have guys out there. So I'm not expecting a large number of crazy visits, amounts in March, but I think there will be some significant guys that come over for practice and stuff like that. But we'll have it covered. So whether I'm here or not, it doesn't impact, what the coverage will be.
Right on. I don't know if you're cheating, Michael, and looking at the comments, but do you know what the overarching most popular question right now in the chat is?
I have no idea.
Michigan.
Michigan.
So,
All right.
Again, everybody had a waiver that was on the playoffs. The portal closed on the 2nd in terms of you entering your name into it. 2nd or the 4th, one or the other. But as long as you got your name in by that time, you could commit whenever you wanted. But
Right.
if he was in the playoffs, you got like a 30-day extension. Well,
Right.
then, in the midst of their extension, Alabama's coach decided to retire. So then they got some extra days available, those players who want to enter it. And now Michigan just lost their coach yesterday. So it's free agency, if you will. You can go ahead and pick and choose as you like. Are there any natural, seemingly logical, I don't know so much of a fit, Michael, or just pre-existing relationships that the staff has with anybody that's of the elite variety over at Michigan?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, I told this on Tom last night when we did our breakdown, the video of the Harvard kid, Jacob Rizzi, and I said, look, I mean, if they do go after some Michigan kids, I think it's going to be on the defensive side of the ball because I think they would like a linebacker, they would like a defensive tackle. They certainly have those in droves. Are there guys I know of? I really haven't studied their roster like that yet, but I do know that's probably if they do go direction. And it's kind of pointless to, I don't know, break it down to which guys until we see these guys enter the portal. Until they enter, it doesn't really matter much. But I would say focus on those two positions. Defensive tackle, linebacker. They also signed somebody. I want to say maybe you can look him up. As long as a 4-star defensive end, he signed with Michigan. Leonard Ikadobi, around there. I'm sorry if I got his last name wrong, but I'm sure Aslan can find him. But he's a guy that I know FSU liked. He was actually going to come on an official visit. At one point, I think FSU held an advantage. Eventually, Michigan made a push late and pushed for him and got him. He's a 4-star defensive end that FSU went to evaluate early in that process in 2024, and then it started to blow up. But then obviously Michigan jumped in, and Michigan certainly won a natty and everything. So they have a lot to offer when it comes to edge guys. They do a great job, but Michigan likely loses their DC with Harbaugh. He probably likely goes over there, and I think the mentor is the DC coach. I think he could go with him. So this is a guy I think just kind of keep an eye on just to see if he decides he wants out of it, and then I think FSU could be a pretty solid factor there. Outside of that, I think really we just have to wait and see what enters the portal for Michigan. They have 30 days, but certainly there's some talented guys. The only guy that popped out to me, Aslan, that I don't even know if he has any eligibility left is Michael Barrett because he's originally from Lowndes High School in Valdosta. That's a guy I know was intrigued by FSU. I don't know if his eligibility is up, but that's the only one that just popped in my head. But I think really the linebacker and defensive tackle position is kind of the places I would look if I were FSU as far as guys entering the portal. So see if you see a linebacker or a defensive tackle maybe enter, then I'll really dive into those names. But outside of that, it's kind of hard to say until these guys enter because it means nothing until they enter the portal.
Mm. Yeah, Michael Barrett was a second-year graduate student, so this was
Yep.
his 6th year this past season. So yeah, that probably puts
Yep.
a bow
Exactly.
on him.
Yeah, so we just have to wait and see who hits the portal. But those are the two positions. I think if you see somebody enter from those two positions, I think certainly I'll address it. And every guy that goes in there from Michigan that enters the portal, I'll certainly address guys on the board. But it's kind of hard to address somebody of what guys they would go after until they actually enter.
Should I pull up their roster and we'll just go?
Sure, we can. I
Oh,
don't care. We can go
yeah.
through it. I mean, I can sit there and we can see if these guys enter. But I mean, it's your call. But it's kind of hard to break stuff down without a guy in the portal.
Yeah, the thing too with them that's a little bit tricky if you're any kind of fan that's trying to poach after their roster is that they are so like senior laden. I mean,
Yeah.
so many of their important pieces are guys that are leaving. So in
Right.
terms of like going to the NFL, but they're, I don't know if you're at the point where I think a lot of people probably agree that the second stringers at Alabama and Georgia are maybe just as good as what you would start with this coming season at Florida State after you lose Verse and Fisk and everybody, that they'd be worth bringing in. But maybe when you get to the point of Michigan, their second, third stringers maybe not as much of a discernible difference. So,
Right.
as Michael said, though, he'll have his ear to the ground on everybody.
I
So,
will. I will,
guys,
guys.
in the
Trust
portal.
me, I'll have you covered, guys. I mean, there's really not a lot we can do until they enter the portal. So I'm not going to sit there and reach out to a kid that is still at Michigan or is on their roster. So we could gladly go through the roster, and I can list guys that potentially, if they did enter, or that would be a guy they go after. But that's uh that's Aslan's
I
decision on
mean,
that.
this is all right. Well, hey, man, I'll just Peter Simmons, defensive lineman, junior from Bonita Springs, Florida, went to Bishop Verrott High School.
Okay.
That's a position, huh?
How much does he play?
I'm gonna make me do a lot of work here now.
Okay.
Here. They don't have anything listed for 2023 on his bio. He did not play at all in 21 or 22. So
Right. Right.
we'll see how that goes. This computer not running as great as it used to at one point. I think it used to be an absolute workhorse, but it's seen its better days now. Let's pivot to another question before I pull up the Michigan roster and we go
Okay.
and look at every single Florida native and whether or not they would fit or not. Does Virginia offer anything to Florida State anymore? How come does Florida State recruit anybody from Virginia anymore? Charlie asks Michael.
Oh yeah, they do. They're very active, Charlie, in the DMV area. They recruit Virginia. They recruit. They've offered several kids from Virginia. Certainly recruit the DC area. They got that's where Mr. D.D. Holmes is from. So four-star defensive end. So yeah, they definitely do recruit Virginia. Just because they haven't landed, I guess, anyone per se lately. I wouldn't take that as like they don't do it. Odell still does recruit Virginia as well, along with JP. So I think they're over there pretty actively. And then whoever's the position coach, I think they're over there as well. It depends on the kid, but yeah, it's certainly definitely an area that they're active with in Virginia. Just because the results aren't there yet, I wouldn't read into that they don't recruit it anymore.
Between each question, I'm just gonna bust out somebody here.
Okay.
Uh, no, well, he says he's a senior. Jalen Harrell, 6'4", 242 edge
Hmm.
from Berkeley Prep in Tampa.
Yes, yes, I know that one pretty well, and I've actually, I think that's one that I could see some interest there because of I do remember him when I've watched Michigan at times, has been on the field. Now how much I don't know. I don't cover Michigan that frequent, but that's certainly a name that I think if they did lose their DC and then he did enter the portal, then that's one that I think they would look into. There you go.
Yeah, I'm trying to pull up his PFF stuff. Part of me, this is fun and games, but also like, what if this kid actually hears like, "Hey, there's these guys that cover Florida State. They're talking about you and whether you would transfer." That's a little bit odd.
Yeah,
Um,
and that's why we're putting it in when we say it, if they enter the portal. We're
right.
not saying Jalen is indicated one way or the other,
And
so
he
don't
might be
worry.
going to the league. Look, by the looks of his numbers, he might be going to the league. I mean, this
Yeah,
is his fourth year playing in a
yeah,
grade out of 77.
it could be. Yeah, and that's the other dynamic that goes into this stuff. So that's why I tell people to wait until they enter the portal. Then we can kind of dissect it and really break it down, and then you kind of go into that. It's always fun to talk about it, but we will put a free preview on this that we're not saying any of these guys are going into the portal or that they would leave, but if they did, the FSU might look into them.
Okay. All right. Next question up here. Dutchy dog, Douche dog. What's expected in the second high school signing period next month, Michael? Can you believe that earlier you said that in February you might be able to
Yeah,
get away for a little bit?
telling you, man, that's
That's
weird.
sounds weird.
Yeah, it's weird. Not a lot as far as activity. I think four-star defensive end Amari Williams, who will sign then. I do feel like it's going to be FSU. Outside of that, is it Douchey Dog or Dushy Dog or
Douche. What was it?
Douche Dog?
From
Excuse me.
Douche.
That's pretty much what I'm expecting at this point. I was told that they were going to, in the second period, they would sign two. Obviously, Trevor decided to go ahead and enroll, so he's done. So he's in there. But with the second one being Amari, I think things look really good. I like where everything sits. I expect FSU. But outside of that, I don't think there's going to be a lot from the high school point of view, which is crazy to say that you pretty much signed everyone in the early signing period, but I think that's that's the way the world of recruiting is trending towards. I think eventually it's just going to get worse and worse, where it's just everyone wants to get it done early and do that early signing period in December, and then that's a wrap. But Mario's one of those that decided to do it in the later period, but that's outside of him. I don't think there's anybody else that I've heard of.
All right. Next name up, Micah Pollard, 6'2", 221 linebacker from Bartram Trail High School in Jacksonville. Played in what looks to be 6 games this past season.
Okay.
He's just a sophomore.
Okay.
He'd be a junior this upcoming season. He's only played 2 seasons. So
Yeah, that could potentially be one. Certainly has a lot of games that he's played. 6 is still a lot,
come on, Micah. Come
but
on, Micah. Come on.
so that's a possibility, and certainly one I'll look into. And I'm gonna flashback this later, guys. And I'm gonna write all these things down so I can, when they if they do enter the portal, I'll be ready. But yeah, these certainly productivity and certainly availability is going to be a big deal if they do enter. I'm going to keep saying that over and over when we do these names, that if they enter. So keep that in mind.
R. Wilmer wants to go way outside the box.
There we go.
About, I don't know, 9 time zones away. Any recruiting down under for the next punter? They got our guy Mac Chimento from
Yep.
Daytona Beach. He
I like
might be
him.
the punting equivalent of Sebastian Janikowski.
I like him. I like him. Good talent. But I mean, potentially, but it's not something that's a priority overall as far as a punter yet that I've heard. Certainly, those are usually later in the year that we hear when they go after another punter. Now, recruiting another one down under. I don't know. I'm not privy to the what's going on in Australian rules football or Australian football over there, of who they
Come
got
on,
and
Michael. What are
who
you
their
doing, man?
who their next star Australian kicker is, their punter. But I do think it's a position they'll look at, because they will need one that's a scholarship punter going forward. But right now, I don't think it's like a pressing need, Wilmer.
Shout out to our guy Al Woody, offering up another name as we
Yeah.
empty the clip on Michigan folk. Jaden Hood, linebacker, 6'1", 225, St. Thomas Aquinas, Fort Lauderdale. He played in 7 games this past
Okay.
season. He would be a senior.
Okay.
He's played 3 years of college football.
That,
Linebackers.
yeah, that's an interesting one. Because FSU actually recruited him. I don't know if this staff did. I knew FSU did. As a school, but and I do know that he visited and he was interested. So that's a good one by Al to pull out of the woods
Oh,
there.
Al. Let's go, Al. Al Woody, is that maybe like Raymond Woody's burner? Ray out there trying to help out in the Noles again? Thanks, Ray.
There you go.
Appreciate
Yeah,
it.
I mean, but we'll see if he enters the portal. That's one that certainly I'll take a look at.
I'm just trying to think. Like, imagine if there's a Michigan podcast. Look at if like if
Telling
Noel
you.
would have left for Alabama. Like, was anybody from the Midwest on Florida State's roster? And they start talking about like this Braden Fisk guy. Oh wait, never mind. He's out of eligibility.
I think it's more of a compliment to them of the talent that they put together over there at Michigan. I mean, they have done an incredible job of really stockpiling talent and just having some very good coaches. Hey, it's his cousin. How about
Look
that?
at that small world, man.
Well, tell Ray I said hello. Yeah, I like Ray. Ray's a good dude. But yeah, I just think it's a compliment to what they've done. And people know this. It's like we're not the only podcast or chat or people that would talk about if this Michigan entered, would they? I'm sure there's guys from different areas of the Midwest that, hey, if this guy entered, man, we could go get that guy, or their team, or So I'm sure we're not exclusively the only ones. So, but it's fun. I like it. Got some good
Uh,
researchers, by the way.
yeah, shout out. Hey, man, all hands on deck, everybody. It's a last minute show, so we didn't get to produce it as much. So all your help is appreciated. Howie Bess, what's up with Dexter Carter's son, Devin Carter?
Yeah, he decided to, I think, open things up. He had not really taken a lot of visits. He took several visits to FSU. I think he went to Ole Miss and a few other places. But I think the interest started picking up nationally everywhere. And I think he's a kid that just wants to explore everything. He's 26. there's really not a rush to have to get your commitment in, as we've seen. Just because you're committed doesn't mean that it's solid. Enter KJ Bolden. Yeah, so I think it's really just exploring all your options. We know kid loves FSU. We know his dad definitely loves FSU. Everything points to FSU still being a really strong player. I think it's more just the national interest really blew up for him, and I think he wants to explore all the different things, compare him to FSU. Don't think he's going to stop visiting FSU. I'm sure he's going to be on campus quite often, but I think it's more of just expanded interest level of, hey, make sure all these places are for me. Then I can make a decision from there.
Dude, look at. So I pulled this up, Michael.
Okay.
This is crazy. Is this true?
What does it look?
February 5th to March 3rd, dead period.
Boom!
Let's go.
I've never been so happy to see something in my life. I hope that's true.
I think it looks pretty legit.
Down by me. I'm down with you. NCAA, you finally did something right. No, I'm kidding. But no, it is good to get a. I think everyone needs a break at some point where, the kids need a break. You're visiting. I remember I was DMing with a kid that visited FSU last weekend, Hollis Davidson, tight end. He's been everywhere, and he's kind of like he was thinking about potentially going back to FSU. He told me, he's like, man, I need a rest, a break, because I've been going to so many schools. So I think everyone needs a break to a certain degree of just eventually you need time to recoil and kind of soak in all the places that you visit and kind of see what places kind of stand out to you. And I think it gives time for everyone to just, and these coaches too. You're talking about spring practice beginning. They need to get all the things set of what they're going to do. So I think it's a good time for just about everybody, including myself. I'm not going to say I don't hate that. I'm not going to lie and say I don't. I mean, it's definitely, I do not mind that to get a little break. Certainly, we've been up there. By the way, this weekend, FSU hosting the Junior Day. Our man, first time there, Aslan, Ben Spicer is going to be helping me out on the
Nice.
weekend, doing some,
Nice.
getting up with some of these guys and doing some of the coverage. So looking forward to seeing what Ben can pop out. I think Ben's going to do a phenomenal job, and I'm excited about it. So yeah, just ready to get these next 2 weekends done and get that late signing period done, and then you know kind of recoil and get recharged and get ready for another crazy 2025.
So apparently, a quiet period. They can still come visit you. You just can't do anything off
Right,
campus. They can all
right.
come visit. I mean, come on, golly, man, jeez. Flair. Woo!
Oh,
Yeah, I mean, Corey and I were joking about that. Florida State's probably going to play Florida with an interim coaching staff this coming season here. I'll put the number at like 4.5. How many guys are under 4.5 players on Florida's roster that Florida State was like the number 2 team in their recruitment, where it's like, it was kind of a coin toss, but they ended up picking the Gators instead of the Noles.
that would take a while. Yeah,
Okay.
that's a lot. I'm sure there's a lot on there. I'm certainly we could break it down, but yeah, that's well beyond the stratosphere of for now they have, as far as we know, Billy Napier's the head coach and they're going into the season. So I think that's well beyond the stratosphere of a coach already leaving at Michigan. So
All right.
we'll stick with the Michigan stuff.
Ric Flair, no fun. We're not having any fun here. All right, so you don't want any fun. We're going to get down the brass tacks. Sharp arrow. Why can't we get interior defensive linemen? That's it, Michael. That's the question.
That's a good question. I think there's several things that play into that. I think one, people aren't going to like this, man, but it's just like a lot of kids resonate with younger guys. Younger as in, not that Odell's old, he's not, but he's viewed that way because he's been at FSU so long. And then a lot of kids just resonate with those type of coaches. I mean, it just does. I mean, it's telling you facts. That's just, kids like them. You look at the kids that are committing to, the top kids that are committing to these schools. I mean, some of these schools, are not as prestigious and exciting as FSU is, and certainly they don't produce what Odell does when he's there. So that plays into it. But also just what you already have there is hard for a kid to see. Like, hey, am I going to get what's the playing time situation going to be there if I go there? And so those things play. It has nothing to do with Odell's skill. Has nothing to do with Odell's ability to develop. It's just one of those things that those are a few things I think that really kind of just to a degree hurt them. Now they still are getting some talented players. Not every I mean, they're not getting a 5-star yet that I've seen in a while, but they are still getting, talented player. I think KJ Sampson is an incredibly talented player that they got last year. I think that kid is going to be really good, but it limits kind of what you could do because one of the reasons they got KJ is because of what Odell is and connected with KJ and just the development really stood out to him. So I think you're going to get some, but you're not going to get the level that I think people are used to over the years that Odell has really just killed it with, like the Eddie Goldmans, Martin Wilsons, those type of guys. It's just tougher to get, as far as those 2 points I just mentioned.
Yeah. All right, let's keep it on the defense. Hit the thumbs up again, everybody. As a reminder, ping the video out there. Let's get more people in here asking more questions about Michigan because all the people that have just showed up are asking about Michigan again.
Yep.
Go back like 17 minutes ago in the show, everybody. Kind of talk about it, but not really. Antoine Stone, who is the top safety on FSU's board for 2025? I, Antoine, like Stubbs a lot.
Yeah, I like him a lot. I also like TJ Pickett a lot. He's a 5-star that I think FSU is very highly involved. DJ could play either corner or safety. I think DJ is probably the most complete safety that they're after. And then also, I guess you can put him safety or corner, whatever DB. I also like Antoine. I also like Hilton Stubbs a lot. Drake, as we call him. He's really good. Just performs everywhere. You can put him at corner, safety, very instinctful safety that makes a lot of plays on just passing windows, and just a guy that I feel like FSU has done a great job with. So far, I think he's going to be back here probably either February 3rd or in the March window early for a practice, probably March 9th weekend. So I think definitely it's a guy we'll visit. He's the teammate of the two guys that they're obviously heavily involved with, in Jamie French and also commit Terrell Jones. So that definitely helps the cause. And I think they've just done a great job. His brother was also a walk-on at FSU, so that doesn't hurt. As far as I'm sure he tells them all the time about what FSU is, and as the season went on last year, I think really FSU just really started making a big impression with Drake throughout the year. So I think that's a team that's very high on his list, and certainly one that I know FSU covets heavily.
What is the latest on DJ Pickett, Mark Cannon wonders?
Yeah, I think it's more. You hear different things. I mean, Ohio State, Florida, I hear them a lot. But I think FSU is mentioned in that three mark now after getting him on campus. Finally, I think a year ago. I think you'll see him in that March window also visit. So I think those three teams are the teams I hear a lot. I wouldn't count out Georgia as well. I think it's a national prospect you're going to hear a lot of teams about, but I don't think there's any incentive for him to early to get it done or finish it off. I think that's just a guy that I think is very high on. I think FSU is very high on him, but I think he's also a guy that I want to see a visit in the spring, Aslan. And I want to see a visit in the summer. I want to see multiple visits from him to consider FSU a legit, strong favorite as far as that recruitment goes, because that's what I'm looking for.
All right. Let's keep it with Mark Cannon. Any news on Noah Grubbs?
I believe that's a quarterback, if I'm not mistaken, Aslan.
Try to
I
confirm.
want to say
Lake Mary QB.
2025 or 2026.
26.
Okay. That's what I thought. Yeah, he's a guy that visited FSU around last year, camp there as well. A guy they do like in the 2026 class. They don't have a commitment from a 2026 quarterback. Certainly the teams I've heard is mainly Notre Dame, FSU. I've heard those the most. I've heard some with Florida, a little with Alabama as well. But now they've had a coaching change. It's kind of hard to even put Alabama in there yet of how much they would push. But Certainly one they like. He's certainly a guy that has been highly praised FSU as far as what he likes there, what he sees there. I think early on, I heard a lot more last year about Michigan. Certainly a strong arm quarterback, hits those seam routes really well. Can certainly do a lot of nice things. Mechanically, there's still things to clean up, as there usually is for a guy that's a sophomore. But certainly one they covet. But it's a long ways away, Mark. But that's definitely somebody that they've been able to get on campus multiple times and that they like. I think they view him highly, and I think the feeling's mutual.
All right. There you go. Look at that, man. Michael got you guys covered. 26, reaching back on that.
There you go.
Speaking of 26, let's keep it there. Ramil Hayes wonders about Caden Hall, 26 receiver, safety, athlete, Milton.
That's a new one to me. I've heard the name, but I don't know a lot of study on him. I know he hasn't visited FSU to my knowledge, but I will look into that one. Certainly, Panhandle has always been good. I think now they have Patrick Surtain that goes over there and covers that area. Seems to be in the RPM favorites, Florida. So Florida certainly, it sounds like they've gotten him on campus a few times, and same with Auburn. It seems like they've been pretty high, but that's not a guy I've seen or heard about FSU getting a visit from him. So I will definitely check on that name, but right now I don't have a lot as far as breaking down kind of who stands out or what.
All right. How about a 30,000-foot question? Nick Snyder. Explore space, Michael. Feel free to. If I may, Nick says, how did Mike Norvell pull this rebuild off? How do kids commit to down programs and coaches get this going?
Yeah, that's the thing, Nick. Kids don't view it the way fans view it. As far as something being down, they look for little glimpses that show them a program is building in the right way. It doesn't have to equal wins either. Just has to do with play. You These kids get to see a full practice that even we don't see, as a group. So you see the way the work and kids know football. So and then you start seeing that translate on the field. We started to see that in 2022 when FSU beat LSU. You saw the translation as far as the play on the field. Obviously, that's a time where Keyshawn Boutte decided to bet on himself. But hey, that's a different story. But I think overall, kids just want to see your product flourishing. And they saw a big jump from FSU for that year, and then I think he's done a really good job. I've highlighted this several times since he's been there, and it started with Jermaine Johnson that really plugging the holes of what they have, on the roster with transfer portal, and not just the hit rate is so high, and the guys that they're getting. That doesn't mean they're perfect. They missed on a few they thought were going to be good. They're just okay. They end up leaving. But I think for the most part, their hit rate has been very strong. And then when they do hit on them, it's really hard. I mean, these guys like Jermaine Johnson, Keon Coleman, Kier Thomas, all these guys that really just kind of set the standard of FSU. And once they set the standard of the portal, it was a portal destination. And then I think what Mike does development wise, I think that isn't talked about enough with people that his positions, you know, they've done a great job of when this guy leaves, you can honestly say this guy's better, they leave the program. So I think their development, their winning culture inside that locker room is another big thing. And then just the product on the field is been different. And that's you throw all this stuff together with the portal and just the program. I think that's really it's what shifted FSU to this level and how Mike's built it.
I think I know the answer to this question. I think it's been bandied about before here. But Kenny Hayden wonders, in your opinion, Michael, do you think if KJ Bolin were to ever go into the portal, let's say after next year, would Norvell take him after he pulled the Travis Hunter?
Negative Ghost Rider. The pattern is full. No, to quote a Top Gun quote from a movie, but no, I don't think there will be a pursuit. I don't see that. I've seen that in several instances when that's happened. When that bridge is burned, the bridge is burned. It's not there. That bridge was burned with trust. He didn't even inform the coaching staff. So I would be surprised. I'm not saying it I never say never in recruiting because you never know. People can call somebody, the feelings get, smoothed over. But I would say very unlikely that even if you hit the portal, I don't see that working out or FSU pursuing.
Lee Fields, any specific position group worry you about whether Florida State can get it done in the portal this spring?
Just linebacker. I want to see more linebacker. I like the Sean Murphy addition. I've talked about Nakai Hill Green. I think that's one that I think will likely another one they'll add, and then Cam Riley. I've also talked about from Auburn. I think if you get those guys, not really that concerned with any other position. I think defensive tackle would be the next place, but I'd like to see them add one. But overall, man, I've been so impressed by the gradual every position they've added one. Whether you like them, whether you feel like that position is sold or not, they have addressed every single one of the positions. I did not expect that. I was expecting there still to be holes going into this May window, a lot of them, and they addressed. I think 15 guys committed now. I think 14 enrolled. So I think overall they have nailed it very well, but there's still work to do. But I think overall I feel pretty good going in the spring based on the positions they've added.
Howie Best, do you think Jacob Rizzi will be an impact player?
Yeah, I don't know. Howie from his first team All Ivy League, which is great. That's cool to say. But FSU is a different level, so we'll just see how he adjusts to that. Obviously, he's a very smart kid went to Harvard. That goes without saying. But his grades are pretty good. I think it was around a 70 PFF.
Oh, those grades you're talking about. Oh, all right.
No, the grades in performance.
Yeah, I got you. All right, let me pull those up.
Yeah, I think it's around. I want to say 70. So it could be.
Yeah, look at that.
Yeah,
Started all 10 games.
yeah,
Grade out at 74.6
yeah.
overall.
That's a good grade. So that's good. Now you have to corner that and say, the competition is going to be different when you get to FSU. The teams you go against, but that's pretty solid in any metric you do. So I definitely think he will help them a lot. How impactful, I don't know. How that's impossible for me to say until he gets out there and works, and we get a feel for kind of what he looks like against some real dudes. Because let's face it, he's going to go against some dudes, in practice. So I think he'll be an impact guy. I just don't know what level of it. But certainly his grades give you a good amount of confidence going in that he will help them.
Left tackle. He started all 10 games of left tackle this past season. So, that's always a good thing.
Yep. It's not a
Pivoting.
negative. It's better than the obvious opposite.
So, man, I should have kept it up there with the impact. I think like Robert Scott and Jeremiah project to probably being your starting tackles.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe Darius. And then on the interior, you did lose Casey Roddick. You did lose Dimitri Emanuel. But you got Terrence Ferguson.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know. Again, listen, I've never subscribed to the whole move Byers into the interior because as you're looking at like Rizzi's numbers,
Yep.
He played all tackle in his career. So that's what Jeremiah Byers did.
Yep.
I'd probably say, I don't know, like maybe put Darius and the Rizzi kid at guard. They're your guards, Maurice, and then you have Byers and Robert Scott. And then at that point, he's probably an impact guy. If he's able to start rotation. But you got Terrence Ferguson here too, who didn't come to sit around and do nothing. Keandre Jones is still around as well, so he probably has a leg up on at least the newcomers when it comes.
Yeah, I would also say that if there's a really top-rated left tackle that they like, I could definitely see them taking a tackle.
Okay.
Because you want competition, and I could see that a pure tackle. I'm talking about a guy for sure, like he just plays tackle. I think that would certainly help them. I think you want competition, so I could see that. So I wouldn't rule that out. But yeah, there's going to be attrition. Brian, there's going to be attrition. That's just part of the process, and both good and bad.
Feel like wide receiver and offensive line can probably pretty much guarantee they're going to, you say returners, not necessarily starters.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be very surprised they didn't lose somebody, But I
Right.
don't think you're going to lose any of those guys that I just rattled off that you're expecting and depending on to being your starter. So at that point, you really can't be too downtrodden about it. Speaking of numbers, does Florida State have more than 85 on scholarship right now? Charlie wonders. No one knows this answer, right?
I don't think anybody knows. I'd say probably a little over that, but again, doesn't matter what it is right now. Matters what it is when you get your full team. So I say what I said every time. Don't worry about the numbers. This guy gets paid over 10 million a year. I just signed a big contract. I'm pretty sure he knows what the numbers should be and who's leaving, who isn't leaving, and it always works out. So I think the numbers will be just fine.
The two things that we will always discuss until the end of time, but probably never need to discuss it because it won't ever be a problem. Although, listen, I get it, you have to get down to 85, so you start losing guys, and that's where attrition
Right.
becomes a little bit more
Right.
accelerated. But again, those guys are not people you're depending on most likely. But the amount of time we spend on talking about are they at 85? Will they make it to 85? How will they make it to 85? And then now tiebreaker scenarios when it comes to winning the ACC.
Yep.
Like everyone's talking about, and listen, I fell into it too, but I got to talk about Florida State every single day, 5 days a week during football season. So when you think about, well, there might be a tiebreaker scenario, and if it's a 3-team tie, how does this all work out? But like it's just it's probably never going to happen. Just like 85 is never going to be a problem to hit. As I digress, I apologize. Just underscore June too. He had a Julian Armella question and a how come Florida State can't hold on to 5-star recruits question. So we'll go with that one. Is Florida State missing something in regards to not being able to hold on to 5-star recruits, Michael?
I don't think they are. I think you know, they've gotten 5 stars. They've certainly signed 5 stars. I think there's been situations that didn't work out to their favor that two of the kids that were DBs that were 5 stars were dishonest with them. I don't think they did anything wrong. I think they were doing everything right. They clicked on everything. They got them committed at some point, and stuff's going to happen. As far as recruiting, it's going to happen when you're dealing with programs that if they desperately want somebody, they're going to use whatever they can use to make that happen. But it's a battle. I don't think they're doing anything, missing anything. I think certainly in certain places they could recruit better at certain positions. I think we've covered those positions, linebacker, DT. I think those are two places that I think they could get improvement. I don't think JP gets a fair shake as some of the stuff he does. I mean, the recruits he gets. I mean, JP does a really good job bringing in top talent, not just from the portal and high school, but I think JP does a really good job. I think he kind of gets some unfair bashing of people when they focus on the defensive line, but I think defensive tackle and linebacker that's very fair. Those are areas that they could do a lot better in the blue chip area, and there's certainly other places that they can improve, but I think overall, as for 5-star recruits now, I think they're doing everything you want to do. You're showing them the product. You're showing your pitch is really good. Your message is consistent. Your performance is consistent. What you're telling them about the program is consistent. And I think when you get there on campus and you experience all the different things, I think everything they say is followed through with, both by players and just the results. So I don't think there's anything they could do differently that they're doing, or they're doing something like it's a false step or something wrong. I think they're doing everything right, but it's just got to keep plugging away of doing what you do, and sometimes you're going to lose one. Like a KJ Bolden, you're going to lose one of those guys, but you're also going to gain certain top guys like Azare Thomas and those type of guys. So you're going to gain some, you're going to lose some, but I don't think it's a misstep they're doing.
Well said, Mike. We've gone about 10 minutes without talking about Michigan.
Okay.
Let's talk about Michigan. Mark
There he
Cannon
is.
with Jim Harbaugh leaving Michigan, is quarterback Carter Smith, Florida Gatorade Player of the Year, possibly back in play?
They visit him. I think Tony Tokart's visited him last week, which is normal. They're going to see kids that they've shown interest in. Obviously, Trammell is their guy, so don't confuse that with him going over there. It's just, I mean, they're certainly they put their work in. Carter does like them, but Carter's really strong feelings about Michigan, and I don't think to me, just based on what I've heard about the scuttlebutt of people I talk to from the Michigan side, that there's going to be too much of a drop off for them on the offensive side of the ball. I think Sharon Moore's going to get the job. I think certainly he'll probably hire somebody that's a very good offensive coordinator, and I think Moore is very, very well respected. I think Smith likes him a lot. I don't think it's like some shift or change. I think he feels good about the program. Now, if he takes a visit, then we'll kind of address it further. But to my knowledge, he doesn't have any plans of going to different too many different places. But I'll keep an eye on that. But I still think he's comfortable with Michigan. Certainly, there's a little uncertainty until Moore is announced if he is the guy, and even then, what they'll look like. But I'm sure FSU, in other schools will still keep chipping away. But I haven't heard anything significant, Mark, that really shifts my feeling that he won't stick with Michigan.
Wes, the Villages. Yo, Michael, got in late. What do you say about a linebacker, an offensive lineman, and maybe a wide receiver after spring? Keep up the great work.
Well, we've talked about it. I think a left tackle is kind of a place that if they go after an offensive lineman, that's the only place I see it. I'm a little surprised they took 3 interior, but maybe they want that competition there. I told Tom last night, Aslan, that leads me to believe like maybe somebody is in there where if the spring doesn't go the way they think, they could hit the portal. I could just that's kind of my feelings when I see that many guys. Linebacker definitely. I do think they'll add a linebacker in the May window. And the wide receiver, if they do, it's going to be a productive numbers guy that puts up good numbers, experience, probably big body if they can get that. But that's the only way I see them adding a receiver.
Mm. Hypnotic Anonymous. Hip Hop Anonymous. How are we
these
looking with Myron Charles?
these names are crazy, huh? These people's names. Um, Yeah, he obviously unofficially visited last weekend. I do feel FSU, Florida are the teams I hear the most about. I think FSU's done a really good job. It's close, 50-50 for me with those two schools. He had a lot of I think when we texted with him, I think there was some very positive things to say about FSU. I've heard a lot of positives coming out of the visit. Last weekend when he visited FSU, I think he likes what FSU a lot as far as the development and the feeling he has when he's there. Certainly, Miami is also in the picture. I think he's visiting there this weekend. But overall, I think they're very much in the picture. Certainly have a solid chance, and really, it's not a recruitment that I feel like is in a rush to decide. So, I think it'll be probably around those three teams. But I hear more about FSU and Florida a battle than I do anything right now with Myron.
Mm. What's up? Charlie says about 25 linebacker Jaden Perlow.
Yeah, Jane Pilot
A lot.
is the one that we felt like he was going to likely flip to FSU. Now that KJ Bolden is at Georgia, I think certainly the pendulum swings towards Georgia. That's likely that he sticks with them. So I have not heard anything about a visit. He talked about visiting Miami, I think this weekend. He has not visited FSU. I've not heard any buzz. He's not even on my hot board yet because I have not heard anything revolving around FSU. So if I do start to hear more about that, I know he likes Mike Norvell a lot, but I have not heard kind of any movement with him. So I'm going to assume, based on the intel I have, that FSU is probably not a major factor in that recruitment at this time. But Georgia is likely the favorite to keep him. I know Auburn is another school that will push hard to try to change his mind, but I have not heard anything new with him.
All right. Well, how about other pipe dream Georgia products? Nick Castagna is here and wonders aloud about Justice Terry.
Yeah. Yeah. I talked to Justice the other day. Now, that's one that's committed to Georgia. Now, I actually think FSU has a legitimate shot to change his mind. He's going to visit on March 9th to kind of segue that dead period we broke down and looked at. He's coming right after that. He wants to see a practice, wants to see FSU. He has visited FSU quite often, actually. He's a big fan of Odell Haggins. He's a big fan of development, so it kind of feeds into kind of what Odell is really good at, and relationships as well. So that's certainly a guy that I think they're going to be a factor for. Not to give away all my guys on my hot board, but he's certainly one that will be on there. He's a guy that they like a lot, and he likes them a lot. He wants to see them, and he wants to see them regularly. And I think that's a team that, or that's a prospect that they'll be very much involved with from beginning to end.
All right. 6'5", 265, man. It's a well-built young man.
Yep.
Probably why Kirby Smart's all over him.
Exactly.
But I digress. One more, Hypnotic says. Trent Wilson.
Yes, he will be here this weekend. He's one of the visitors. It's not a big group so far, probably around 9 so far. I think it's probably going to get up to around 15, which is kind of what I expected. But Trent will be one of those guys that will visit this weekend. He's going to see FSU, 4-star defensive lineman, a guy that's high on Penn State. From what I hear, that visit went really well. But I think FSU is a team that I hear a lot. Also, likely after the FSU visit, I think he probably goes over and swings to see Miami as well. But I think FSU is a school that he's pretty high on, named the top 6, and FSU was in there. That's a program that he's really big on, being a part of a winning program. That's something that he's looking for, and the development of his position. So certainly a guy that I think FSU is highly involved with. Big visit weekend this weekend, so that's going to tell a lot about their pecking order. And then once they do that, I can tell you kind of exactly where they sit. But right now, I'd say definitely firmly in the mix. Certainly a guy that I hear a lot of communication between the two sides, and that's one that FSU it covets heavily, and I think certainly one of their biggest targets for that 2025 cycle.
Tomcat here is wondering about. I got the answer pulled up, Michael. So don't even sweat it. Don't even sweat it. Trying to
Deal.
throw a curveball at us about Jacob Rizzi and how much center he has played. So Jacob Rizzi's played 1,354 snaps in his career at Harvard, 673 at right tackle.
Mm-hmm.
His entire 2022 season, he started playing up at right tackle. This past season, he played 615 snaps, all exclusively at left tackle. His freshman year, he played 5 snaps at center, and he played 61 at left guard.
Boom.
That's talking Jacob Rizzi with the Warchant.com live recruiting show. A couple more we'll take on the way out here, Michael. Nick Castagna's got Georgia Envy or Georgia Misery on the mind.
Okay.
When are we going to rip out UGA's tight ends coach's heart with Elias Williams? Sorry.
Yeah. Elias Williams from Camden County. Really good tight end. Really good, I think, more so a receiving guy than kind of what we experienced last year in Landon, who I think is a combination of both of those, elite in both of those areas. I think Elias is phenomenal as a receiver. He's visited FSU like 3 times last year. I think he will visit FSU either next weekend or early March. I've heard that consistently, that I think he will definitely be on campus. I think another kid that I think will probably trip over there to Miami for that big battle, 7-on-7, just to be there in presence. But I think overall, a guy that FSU tight end coach Chris Thompson has developed a really strong relationship with, similar to the one that he developed with Landon, and a guy that they just absolutely love. That they're trying to rip their hearts out, but I think for now he's comfortable. But I don't think it's like locked down and solid that he's for sure going to Georgia. I think he's still pretty open. I think it's a soft verbal as far as I've heard, but I think he's comfortable just what they do, at the tight end position. And why wouldn't you with what certainly what Georgia does at tight end? But I think overall he's definitely open to listening, and certainly the team that's the biggest threat to me is FSU.
Mark Dorfman with a procedural question. I don't know if you got the answer to this one, Michael, but Mark wonders, can 2024 high school recruits enter the May portal? I don't see why they couldn't, but I don't know. That's just my thoughts.
I don't see why they couldn't. I mean, we've seen guys that enter the portal that or from the like.
I mean, Juice Cryer, right? I
Yeah,
know he lost his coach,
yeah.
um, but he was part of
I
that.
think I think you can, but I don't know the dynamics of it. Certainly, we've seen the ones where a coach leaves, like Nick Saban retires, and then they've had some kids that are in the high school market that reopen. Then they have one kid that came back yesterday that reopened it. But I don't know the specific answer, but tend to lean towards agreeing with Aslan that I do think they can be in that May portal.
All right, here's another not procedural, but philosophical question. Tomcat wonders, when you're talking to these new recruits, Michael, have any of them expressed thoughts on Florida State leaving the ACC?
More so their families, because the families usually think farther along. But I have heard these families a lot consistently that FSU is leaving, and I think majority of them feel like FSU will leave. And they're excited about what potential where they could go. But yeah, it's more so the families though than the actual recruits. It's kind of like when kids go on visits. Yeah, academics is cool, and you'll have some kids that eventually don't want to talk about academics, but a lot of these kids want to know about football stuff. How they connect with the staff and the feelings, and then the parents are more academic centric as far as what do they do, what do they like away from football, that kind of stuff. And but I do think the recruits and the families are centered in together because it's a family decision when a lot of these guys decide. I don't care what they say. I don't care. I don't care what they say. But I think overall, yeah, it's definitely something that has been talked about.
All right. I know it's a recruiting show. The last one on the way out here, Michael asked earlier in the show from Noel Cab. What are your thoughts on the schedule? Home games, Clemson, Florida, set up to be big recruiting weekends.
Yeah, I mean, the home schedule is really good for them. Clemson UF weekend's going to be insane. Both of them will be crazy. DJ plays against his old team. That's going to be really fun. Obviously, Florida is always Florida. That's probably going to be the most well attended big recruiting weekend. I think the big recruiting weekend set up really nice. I think you have some really good ones. You're looking through the schedule. Memphis is kind of an interesting game as well. So I think that's an interesting one. I think the North Carolina game will also be a well attended recruiting event weekend. That last four stretch though, man. Clemson, Duke, Miami, North Carolina, at Notre Dame. That's a challenge. But they've experienced through this stuff before. But to me, as from an outside looking at the team perspective, that's kind of how I look at it. But some interesting matchups. I think the first, four games, I think it sets up pretty well for FSU, and then after that, once you even SMU, I think even though that's a challenging place, SMU scores points, but I think after that, then it gets to the real stuff. You get to the meat of the stuff, and but overall recruiting weekend, it's going to be phenomenal. It's going to be great. I know there's going to be a lot of people in Ireland. That's going to be crazy. Good luck with that, ESPN. Get ready for a toxic environment, ESPN. Just letting you know again, in case you guys forgot, because I don't think FSU fans forgot. So get ready for it.
212 days until the season opener, if you're counting everybody. Our guy, Ralph, Hawaii, he's on it right now. Countdown is on. He says he'll see everybody in Ireland. So, yeah, get ready, Kirk Herbstreit. Get ready. All right, that's a wrap, man. What's going on over the PRB? I guess so. There's a junior day again this weekend.
Yeah, they'll have a junior day.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, have a junior day this weekend because I care about you guys. I'm going to give you some of the guys that are expected there. Four-star commit offensive lineman Solomon Thomas will be there. We mentioned four-star defensive lineman Trent Wilson will be there. One interesting one that I think that I'm going to follow is Chris McCorkle. He plays for Cardinal Mooney. I watched this kid in the state finals. Phenomenal, great talent. I think he's going to be very impressive. And then you have a handful of very talented receivers. I think one of the biggest ones is Derek Smith. He's a guy out of the Georgia area, could be Alabama, I'm not sure, but he's in that area. He's one that they've targeted highly. He's a coveted prospect, so we'll have all the coverage on that stuff. Certainly, we'll have anything that portal related with Michigan. We'll certainly address that. and we'll go over anything else that is new. And by the way, guys, I know you've already seen the offensive hot board for 2025. We're going to release the defensive side coming up soon. That's already done. I got it done for you guys even before I have to go. So I wanted to make sure that you guys saw it. But that will definitely be coming up from us, the 2025 hot board.
Boom. Look at that. Who loves you? That guy does. I would have just hung out and done nothing all night tonight.
There you
I
go.
give people what they want. Michael, we appreciate it. Will you hang out with us on Wake Up Warchant for the Monday podcast, please?
Absolutely, man. Absolutely.
He's the man. Hit the thumbs up for Michael out here working for you folks real hard. Thanks for watching, everybody. Appreciate all your questions. Again, hit the thumbs up on the way out. He's Michael. I'm Aslan. Stay connected to warchant.com. All the recruiting coverage all weekend long. PRB. Do it.